Everybody, it's Mike Sullivan with Born to Shine. Today we have a really cool guest. His name is Derek Fialkiewicz, and he is over in Corbett, Oregon.
Yep.
Oh, I
Yep.
got it right. Wow, I lucked out
Nice.
there. Derek, thank you, man, for carving out some time with us today. Really appreciate you being with us.
How you doing, Mike? It's my pleasure. Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Well, let's hear about your story. What was your journey like, Derek, to become the superintendent, right? A lot of people looking up to you for your wisdom, your leadership, your guidance. What was your journey like?
Um, gosh, so I was I I'm gonna start from day one. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. My dad was a high school math teacher. Growing up, I idolized my dad and wanted to be him from day one. I knew that I wanted to be a high school math teacher. That was it. I was good at math. And in fact, I remember being in high school, we had like a spirit day where you could trade places with a teacher for a day.
Mm.
And it was only for seniors. And for 3 years, I just dreamed of being a math teacher that one day. And I got my dream come true. And I got to be a math teacher for a day. And it was awesome. And then I was like, I'm sold. This is what I'm going to do. And so I became a math teacher in Las Vegas, Nevada,
Mm.
actually Henderson.
Okay.
And it was and I also coached track and cross country,
Mm.
which are my passions. But what's odd is I was as much as passionate as I was about math, I was one of those teachers who taught so that I could coach. That
Mm.
was my real passion. And I'll never forget the day my oldest son was born. And his mom looked at me and was like, "You realize your coaching days are over. That was a full-time job in itself and year round." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me. What am I going to do?" And so then I just threw myself into teaching and becoming the best math teacher that I could.
Mm.
And then I realized that I need to positively affect more kids than just the 200 I was seeing every day.
Mm.
Um, and so I became the department chair in our school. And at that point, I realized there was more even than that.
Mm.
Um, and I started doing professional development in our district, moved then into a full-time professional development job.
Mm.
And that led into administration, school
Mm.
administration, because I realized my heart was in a school, not doing professional development with adults. I had to be back with kids. So I became a school administrator. About 10 years later, became a principal, and 5 years later, a superintendent. And so here I am. So I went from Buffalo to Las Vegas, spent about 26 years in Las Vegas, and now I'm in Oregon.
That's so cool, coast to coast,
Yeah.
and math, having a child, being a coach, all of that, and now you're impacting and supporting even more people, and that's such a cool story.
And the goal has always been, as I've moved from one position to another, is how can I have a greater impact on our students?
Mm.
I realized as a teacher, our impact is very localized, but I needed more than that. And so then
Mm.
when I moved into administration as a dean of students, I was impacting like the really struggling students, but I wanted to impact more than just that.
Mm.
And so then becoming an assistant principal and a principal, yeah, I had even more impact, but it was just my school. And so that's when I realized I needed to be a superintendent to have K-12 impact. And so that I could positively affect an entire K-12 district, not just one school.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Love that. Love that. Love your heart for your kids, and that's just awesome. And when you, Derek, were a kiddo, When you were speaking of K-12, was there anything that you struggled with emotionally or mentally? Like I had anxiety and depression and all that. I really struggled. Was there anything that you wrestled with when you were a kid?
Um, so not many people know this about me, Mike, because I'm a pretty private guy, but um, my parents actually, so I was adopted. When I was 18 months, I was adopted, and about a year later, my parents got divorced.
Mm,
And living in two families. Luckily, my mom got remarried to an absolutely amazing person who I still call him dad to this
mhm,
day.
mm,
Uh, and, but being in two households, going back and forth, my own children had to deal with that because their mom and I got divorced when they were young. And and I know how difficult that is
mm,
for kids. Um, and I just remember growing up and seeing my friends who had the quote unquote perfect family, and I had what I dealt with. And it felt normal at the time. And then all of a sudden, as you're growing up, you're realizing, okay, well, maybe there were a lot of things that weren't so normal. And it's weird because look, it wasn't until I wasn't a my own it wasn't until I was a parent until I really fully started to grasp the impact of my childhood and those things that I had to overcome, um, not knowing who my true parents were and who my true family was. And imagine every time you go to the doctor and they say to you, "So what's your medical history?" I
mm,
got nothing. I have
mm,
no idea.
mm.
And I've had heart issues. I actually just had an open heart surgery a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
And that was my third open heart surgery. And of course, through that whole thing, they're always asking, do you have medical history? And I got nothing. And so it's just like those things that at the time are like, eh, and then you realize that when you're older, wow, that really did have an impact. And I want to make sure that when I'm working with our students, that I have that empathy that, you know what? Yeah, I get it. You're going through some stuff. Let's show some grace because it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I'm really moved by that, Derek, and I know people will be touched by what you just shared. So thank you, because that takes a lot of courage. That shows a lot of leadership within you, and opening up like that, and how it developed your empathy muscle and really strengthened it. And that so there's no it's no accident that you're the superintendent. It's incredible. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks,
And
Mike. I'm glad I was able to. It's like I said, in fact, when I just had this most recent open heart surgery, nobody knew except for like my administrative team because it was going to affect them with me being out for 6 weeks.
right.
Um, and I'm not the type of person who's going to share stuff because I don't want people looking at me differently. But there are times when people need to know the journey that we were on, and we've all been on a journey. And that's the thing that I've realized in my wisdom of old age is that every single one of us has been on a journey, and every single one of us has a story to share, and every single one of us has stuff that we deal with on a daily basis. And you never know. Like, I don't know. I think I put on a very good mask at times. And I feel as though I have to in my position. Um, but not everybody can do that.
Mm,
And I really try to model having grace for people. And because you don't know what their story is, you don't know what they're dealing with. People
right.
didn't know when I came back to work. that I had just had open heart surgery and I was trying to recover from that while I'm trying to work again.
Whew.
But I didn't need for them to know that. But yet I need to remember that other people are going through stuff as well.
Yeah, amen to that. And I love what you said, Derek, about grace, extending grace, because that's the truest thing that everyone's going through something, everyone. And just showing empathy and grace, those are two extremely powerful connectors and bonders, you know. So then thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Well, and Mike, I'll be honest, as a high school teacher, I didn't always show grace to my students and I
Mm,
didn't always show empathy to my students because high school teachers get wrapped up in their content and that's all there is.
mm,
And now I am working with our high school teachers and I worked with the teachers that I had back in Las Vegas on the whole idea of it's okay if they missed an assignment. It's okay that they didn't do their homework one night.
mhm,
Um, a story I like to tell them is so my stepson, um, he went through law school. It took him 3 times to pass the bar. And you know what? He's got the same license as everyone else to practice, and nobody looks at him differently when he's in a courtroom.
right.
So there's that.
Yeah, there's that. That's a good point. That's a great point, actually. Yeah, and that's awesome. And you know, I can see how your past struggles are now your mission, you know, to really not only help students but help your staff and help the families. And what's something that you've noticed, you know, is working well within your district to support your kiddos and staff? And then, you know, if you had a magic wand, what would you love to bring more in?
So in my current district, one of the first, I've been here, this is my 4th year. And one of the first things I did when I got here, I got an email from the US Department of Ed about this school-based mental health grant that they were trying to get off the ground. And I sent that over to my head counselor. And by the way, we had at the time 2 counselors for our
Mm,
entire school district.
oh, gotcha.
And I sent that to her and I go, we need to do this.
Yeah.
And she put an amazing proposal together, working with our student services director and got a $5 million grant over 5 years for mental health services for our students and families,
Mm,
school-based mental health.
awesome.
We were able to turn a 2-person counseling team into an 8-person counseling
Mm,
team
look at that.
with a director. I mean, it's spectacular what
Awesome.
we are able to do for our students. Now, instead of having 2 for the whole district, we have 2 in each building.
Love it.
And I'll tell you, their schedules are full every
Mm-hmm.
day,
Mm-hmm.
working with students, working with families.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and unfortunately, that grant just got pulled by the US Department of Education two
Right.
years early. And
Mm,
so now we're scrambling to try to figure out how we can keep those services for our students because you don't realize how much your students need until you actually can provide the services. And then how do you take that away?
right.
So, but yeah, that's something that I am so proud of that we were able to do that for our families and for our students. Um, our our discipline rates dropped drastically since getting that grant. Our attendance has gone up. Our student achievement has gone up. The whole thing it's all one big package and it's wrapped around student mental health.
Amen. Amen. I am 100% with you, Derek. I've heard that from multiple superintendents just like you, that when we support our kids, amazing things happen to the
Yeah.
district, to the family, to the community, everything. And it all boils down to supporting kids with their mental health. So I love that. And you know, if the fun, silly question, but there's meaning to it, is the magic wand. You know, if you had anything, what would you like to see more of for this coming school year for mental health support?
Um, mental health and support for for our staff. That I think is
Mm,
something that we are missing the ball on. Um, One thing I did when I was a principal back in Las Vegas, coming out of COVID, I set up. We had three staff rooms. Each wing of our building had a staff room, and I turned those staff rooms into calming spaces
mm,
for our teachers. Actually, one of them was a calming space, one of them was a maker space where they could just go in and play.
mm,
And then the third one was actually a video game room where they could go in on their prep time and just zone out and play
mhm,
video games.
mhm.
And they were so utilized, and the teachers really, um, you could tell that they were able to just decompress in the middle of the day. That's what people need.
Right.
We're on the go like this all the
Mhm,
time, and we
mhm,
just need 10 minutes to just stop. Um, Last year, I went for the first time and I got acupuncture.
mm,
And it was weird though. The thing I gained most out of it was in the middle of the day. That's the only time they had an appointment.
mm,
And so I left campus, went and got this, and all I did was sit there in silence for an hour while we're going through the acupuncture and didn't say a word, didn't check my phone, didn't do anything, and just sat in my thoughts. And I realized, oh my gosh, I got back to campus and I was like rejuvenated and ready to go. And I started every day from that point forward, taking 20 minutes and just going into an empty room and sitting and just sitting and doing and just in my thoughts for 20 minutes. And it is so refreshing to be able to do that. But you don't realize the mental health support that our staff needs
mm.
as well. Because like we were saying earlier, everybody's got stuff.
Yeah. Everybody's got stuff. That's a 100% for sure. Very true. And yeah, you've got a huge heart, Derek, for your kids, your students, your staff, the families. I mean, and you're having really cool creative ideas. I love that the quiet space, the play space, and then the just zone out video game space. That's so cool. So, thank you so much. Oh, any final thoughts, parting words of wisdom or encouragement or whatever's on your heart? What would you like to say if someone's watching this? Maybe a parent, maybe another superintendent, maybe a student, maybe a mom or dad. What would you say to him or her?
Um, and it's something that we said a little bit earlier, but and it's something that I need to work on as well. And it's just to show grace to everyone, period. Like wherever we are, if we're driving down the street and somebody beeps at you, you don't know why they're beeping at you. You don't know what they're doing. If they're racing down the street, you don't know why. There might be somebody in the car that needs to get to the hospital. You don't know. So instead of jumping to conclusions, instead of right away thinking the worst, think the best of people.
Mm, I love that. Derek, thank you so much for sharing your heart, sharing your wisdom and experience, and your encouragement. Thanks for making some time for us today.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate you bringing me on.
You were born to